The 1970s, a pivotal time in history with innovations and developments across all sectors around the world. Similarly, motorcycles underwent a transformative period signified by bold designs and revolution. However, this new approach didn't work with all bikes. Some of them had to face failures resulting from reliability issues, inadequate design, or poor performance. So, without further ado, let's talk about the 5 worst motorcycles in the 1970s. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content. The Suzuki Re5. Back in 1974, in an attempt to do something different and be a step ahead of its competitors, Suzuki began producing the Re5, a motorcycle that was powered by a rotary engine. However, soon they would learn that they had made a huge mistake, costing them a lot of time and money. Upon the initial release of the Re5, motorcycle enthusiasts had great things to say about it. However, soon enough things took a turn for the worse and the issues started becoming evident. The key issue was unnecessary and new systems that they had installed to control the engine. This resulted in an increase in the weight and the mechanical technicality of the bike. There were also issues in the exhaust and ignition systems. Moreover, its performance was below average. Despite having a strong rotary engine, the Re5 was proving to be slower and less powerful than other Suzuki motorcycles like the GT750. But it didn't end there. Suzuki priced the vehicle at a ridiculous amount of $2,500, which is around $16,000 in today's money. When compared to Honda's pricing of $1,495 for their CB750, which was proven to be far faster, fuel efficient, and more reliable, riders didn't have any reason to buy a motorcycle that cost them almost $1,000 more. After receiving many negative reviews, Suzuki released an updated version with a more traditional style and fixed a few of the ignition issues. However, despite their best efforts, they couldn't save the Re5 and it was discontinued in 1976, just 2 years after the initial release. Even after being discontinued, the motorcycles that Suzuki had produced took so long to sell that they were sitting in the showrooms even in the late 70s. The Honda CB500T. While trying to capitalize on the already successful CB450T, Honda produced a motorcycle that not only disappointed the fans, but also felt more like an afterthought than a new creation. We're talking about the CB500T motorcycle introduced in 1975. When the big guns in the boardroom realized the amount of success the CB450T was garnering, they wanted to take advantage of it. Therefore, they asked the engineers to modify the 450cc engine to a 500cc model, but in a more cost-effective manner. Now imagine creating something that already has cost cuts in the initial stage of production. How can you expect it to be long-lasting and of good quality? The reality was that the CB500T was just a CB450T with a slightly modified frame, stroker motor, and a disc brake. Since the Honda engineers weren't allowed to make a 500cc engine from scratch, they just took the 450cc engine, changed the roller bearings into big ball bearings to extend the engine's life, used the same head unit as the 450cc engine, and called it a day. However, it didn't end there. They also managed to further ruin the quality by adding the cheapest rubber they could possibly find to the handlebars, the seat mount, and the rubber bushings. This resulted in the motorcycle vibrating like it had overdosed on caffeine, leading to an uncomfortable ride and the vehicle shaking violently at every point. All things considered, the CB500T was a failure because the people sitting at the top wanted to maximize profits while cutting costs in whatever manner possible. Therefore, as a consequence, a low-quality product was created. Many enthusiasts claimed that it would be better if Honda had claimed to be releasing a revamped version of the CB450T rather than promising a new model and delivering whatever this was. As a result of all this disappointment, they had to discontinue this vehicle in 1976. The Yamaha TX750. Yamaha tried to take a think-out-of-the-box approach with the TX750 motorcycle, but they failed miserably. During the time when competitors like Honda and Kawasaki were taking over with their inline-4 engines, Yamaha was trying their best to keep the 2-cylinder engines in the game. Therefore, they introduced the TX750 with this engine, which was claimed to be a 743cc with 63 horsepower. In order to deal with the vibrating issues that were reported in the 2-cylinder engines, they created an apparatus known as the Omni-Phase Balancer, which was supposed to make the engine run as smoothly as the inline-4 engine. Even though the addition of this machine seemed like a smart plan, what Yamaha didn't know was that it would cause the downfall of the TX750. The Omni-Phase Balancer started creating issues in the motorcycle like overheating the motor oil if the vehicle was at high speed, and since the fluid was not circulated appropriately, it would lead to mechanical failures. To make matters worse, the vibration problems that led to the development of this machine were not fully solved either. Things further went downhill at the Castrol 6-hour production race in 1972, when 6 of the TX750s participated in the race, Only 3 of them ended up crossing the finish line. Not a single one made it to the podium. While Yamaha had anticipated this to cause intrigue amongst fans and enthusiasts for the release of their new motorcycle, it all just took an embarrassing turn. Even though the engineers worked day and night on fixing these issues before the TX750s hit the market in 1974, the race had already ruined the reputation of the motorcycle, with the users already having a preconceived notion that the vehicle would be unreliable. While Yamaha did try everything in their power to increase the sales of the TX750, they just couldn't do it. This resulted in the discontinuation of the product and ending its unsatisfactory 2-year production run. Don't forget to subscribe for more motorcycle content from the yesteryears. Next up, the Suzuki TM400 Cyclone. Let's talk about a racing motorcycle from the 70s that proved to be horrible. The TM400 Cyclone was Suzuki's leading race machine from 1971 to 1975. Theoretically, the motorcycle wasn't too bad, priced at $1,000 with 40 horsepower, but it was very inconvenient to drive. The Cyclone consisted of an unreliable ignition system, which would result in the bike running in an erratic manner, catching the rider off guard and hitting them with an unexpected eruption of power. The cherry on top was the fact that it was never clear what speed the sudden burst of power would come at. It could happen at 5,500 RPM or even 3,500 RPM, making it not only unpredictable but also dangerous. Moreover, these motorcycles were marketed by Suzuki as a replica of their factory racing bikes that were ridden to victory by motocross legends like Joel Robert. But in reality, they were 50 pounds heavier than the actual racing bikes, making them difficult to handle. Other than being overweight, they were also poorly designed with a frame that would flex, resulting in serious problems in controlling the vehicle. This unstable and erratic motorcycle would oftentimes throw the rider off the bike, resulting in serious injuries. Nonetheless, Suzuki did try to fix these issues, and by 1975 had managed to cut down on many of the Cyclone's flaws, making it easier to handle. However, by that time it had already earned its reputation of being the most dangerous bike in the motocross community. Ultimately, the company had to discontinue this bike 4 years after it was first introduced in 1975. Last on our list is the Yamaha SC500. For Yamaha, their attempt at creating open-class motocross bikes has been hit or miss with a 40-year-long run, what can only be categorized as a roller coaster of both successes and failures. So it's only fitting that we take you to the very beginning of this journey, when the SC500 Scrambler was first introduced in 1973. This motorcycle, which weighed a whopping 243 pounds, was Yamaha's first attempt at creating a 500cc motocross bike. It also had a 498cc air-cooled 2-stroke engine with a reed valve design, paired with a 4-speed transmission. However, this engine tended to sputter, cough, and stall constantly. Additionally, it would constantly overheat and stop at regular intervals, similar to the Suzuki TM400. This motorcycle would also have a sudden burst of power and then completely slow down. If you thought the internal system was the end of the issues in the SC500, the chassis was even worse, as it had a terrible weight balance, with the front being too light and the back too heavy. This would often result in the bike doing a wheelie and losing control out of nowhere. It was also reported to be shaking violently when facing high speed. A magazine worded the whole situation in the best way possible, where they stated that even though Yamaha got it right in terms of the plastic fit, no flimsy bits coming off, and overall sturdiness of the vehicle, they missed the whole point of making a motocross bike that's easy to handle and lightweight, while its European competitors, who produced fragile bikes, had created something easily manageable, enabling a better performance than what Yamaha bikes were giving. This disastrous attempt at a bike was discontinued by Yamaha in 1974, just a year after it was released. From cost-cutting disasters to attempting an out-of-the-box approach, these instances remind us that no matter how legendary and popular the company is, it can have its off days. What are your thoughts on these motorcycles? Do you think they should have been discontinued? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more motorcycles of the yesteryears.